money like cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Customer, clientele. I was broke, that was last year. Getting money like cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Benjamin, nothing less. I was broke, that was last year. Don't change them. I never switched up. Been down since day one. Stay social. People change them. I never switched up. Social currency.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dope Black Thoughts Live. My name is Kevin Cox. I'm here with...
And I'm Marcus Ivy. Welcome to the show. Sorry, a little bit late, but you know how it is.
Yeah, we're building. Thank you for following us through this journey. We have a very great episode today. Very great? Grammar check?
Hey. We have a good episode today.
A very good episode, especially considering the environment that we have going on right now with all these protests and all the vitriol going on in the community at large. One thing I can say for a fact is that we're doing it the right way in Aurora, Colorado, and we have a very prolific community activist on the show with us today. Her name is Shenika Carter. If you cool, you need to bring anything up? I'm going.
No, let's do it. Let's get right into it.
All right. Shenika, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for offering this platform for me to be able to join while out with my children and family on this Saturday. So I appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely. So, where do you want to start at? I got questions, but let's go ahead and get started.
So I want to talk about the super obvious, hashtag justice for Elijah McClain, hashtag 1,000 miles for Breonna, all the role that you played in these community responses to what's going on out here in the world, spanning from Aurora, Colorado, all the way to Louisville, Kentucky, and across the nation.
And back.
I want to talk to you. What do you got going on right now? Give me a little update, little snapshot.
So right now we have officially incorporated the Caravan for Racial Justice as a nonprofit organization, and that was because community has asked for that. So hand clap if you have that sound there. And I'm really excited about this organization and the takeoff of the organization, which started just from a Facebook post on just being outraged and upset about the protesters that went to the lawn of the Attorney General there in Kentucky and were arrested. Ultimately they were facing felony charges. Those charges were dropped, but it outraged me at the fact that we have killers that are walking our streets in uniform, and we're arresting protesters who are protesting the fact that these killers are in uniform. So it outraged me. I put a post out, contacted a few people. Kevin, you were one of them immediately, and said, let's go. And I was honored and overwhelmed at the response. I want to say it was myself along with 8 other prolific, as you say, activists within community, and I'm still overwhelmed, which is why I'm smiling in the midst of the devastation done to our community.
Yep, and you described it right, devastation in our community, because any amount of anger that's pouring out over people being killed, to me, it's pretty much appropriate, and I think that as Black folks, we're doing very well to not want revenge and only want justice. Only want fair treatment under the law. So I don't think anybody could be asking for any better than what they're getting right now. Marcus, jump in. You were talking about, what were you talking about?
But no, I actually just really wanted to talk about what are the next steps. Where is Shenika Carter headed next? What can we expect to see as we continue to push forward in our fights for equality? What's next?
So, as I mentioned, we're going to kick off the Caravan for Racial Justice. Our mission is to raise awareness, educate, and empower citizens to become actively involved in the success of their community. So with that mission going forward, We have teamed up with the Kentucky Alliance, along with the National Action Network Kentucky, and we're doing 1,000 miles for Elijah. So we're bringing activists from Kentucky, from Louisville, that are foot soldiers, that are on that ground, that are coming to ground zero every single day, demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. We're bringing them here to Aurora. So we're going to
Okay.
kick off again with acknowledgement of our organization. The Caravan is founded and organized here in Colorado, but we're creating chapters nationwide and hopefully across abroad as well. So we've been in contact with people, as Kevin has said, across the nation that are, again, there are several organizations that are out there, but specifically what our mission is to focus on the education of community and ensuring the success of their community by bringing resources, by bringing the data on like our DA race here in the 18th district. What does that prosecutorial record look like for our people? And so with that, raising that awareness and ensuring the success of community, that'll be on August the 22nd. And then August the 23rd, the Caravan will be joining Elijah's Walk Home. And that'll be August the 23rd. August the 28th, the Caravan will travel to Washington, D.C., and it'll be 1,000 miles for racial justice as we join the Walk on Washington. So that's what we have immediately going on.
Okay. So how do people get involved? And what are the ways they can get involved? I know money is probably one, but what are other ways that people can get involved?
So we definitely need community to support this project. Getting the Louisville activists here is a priority for me. I'm personally funding some of this trip, so I definitely will need others to join with me in helping to raise money. We'll have T-shirts, we'll have raffles. I am committed to making sure when we went, and Kevin, I know you can attest to this, when we went out to Louisville, we were treated like royalty. They fed us. They were appreciative that we've come to that community, because oftentimes predominantly Black and brown communities, specifically Black, are left behind, as we saw. What you saw from even our protests here in Aurora, the people that are on the ground in Louisville have been shot at, not with rubber bullets. The National Guard has come to their door. They've lost.
Uh-oh. I think she froze up for a sec.
Yeah, right when she said lost. So we lost the signal.
Yep.
You still there with us, Shenika? Well, I can kind of start filling in some of the blanks, and I'll bring her back in whenever her signal opens back up. But there were a lot of stories about people being shot with live rounds. So the National Guard has been very active. They've been jumping out with the federal troops have been jumping out with the police out of these unmarked vehicles. And it looks like we got Shenika back. But that's what we were talking about. We did some private interviews with some people, and they as far as losing their baby, there was a pregnant woman that lost her baby running from the police while they were trying to apprehend people, shooting live rounds. And I even heard stories that some of them were drinking. They were finding empty liquor bottles and whatnot where the police were congregated. It's not the year 2020 in Kentucky when it comes to Black relations.
No, definitely not.
Correct. Correct. And I was just saying, thank you, Marcus, Kevin, for saying that, because the National Guard has shown up to the front line. We have an American city right now that's being referred to as ground zero. That is a problem. It's a problem for me. It's a problem for my community, and it should be a problem for any American citizen, especially those who have served this country, that we are militarizing our police, our armed forces against American citizens. So we have a major problem in, again, educating our community on what their human and civil rights look like. And so that we're able to justify and say, I'm being violated. We have to know the law. And part of the Caravan's mission, as I stated, is doing that work, getting that information out to public so that people aren't afraid to protest. Most people don't show up because of fear. And I get it. I have children. I have 3 children, which are in the back seat right now, a husband, a grandmother at home, a mom in Atlanta. So I get it. But right now, I can't afford, I don't have the luxury to look any further from the sidelines. I have to jump in. And that's why we birthed the Caravan for racial justice. And again, to get involved, we're setting up the Facebook page now. I do know there will be a sign up sheet to become a part of the Caravan, and also to set up chapters in other states and other countries.
So let's talk about our the protest. And unfortunately, especially in Aurora, our protests are getting a bad rap because the folks, at least who run in their mouth, Mayor Kaufman, seems to put out this statement that that protests are becoming violent, and they're not becoming violent due to the people themselves. They're being escalated by forces outside. Would you agree?
I would agree. Protest is clearly a sign of, I mean, it's displayed civil disobedience, right?
Right.
If we protested from the sidewalk, it wouldn't be a protest because everyone would pass us and say, oh, okay, there are people congregated on the sidewalk. So sometimes it requires us to knock on a door. It requires us to write postcards over and beyond and involve other communities. It requires us to stand in the street and say, hey, let's stop this traffic because you don't see us. Now, when you come and you talk about violent protesting, that's clearly a form of rioting, which even Dr. King grew more militant towards his movement of nonviolence, in a sense of and recognizing that rioting is the voice of the unheard. So now when you mix the voices of the unheard and you see moms, you see single moms, you see Black and brown moms that are standing in solidarity, you see Black leaders, you see grocery store clerks that are standing on the highway risking their life saying, hey, do you see me now? We have a problem in our country. We have a problem in our community. That's not tearing anything up. It is disruptive. But if it wasn't for that same disruption in illegally forced actions of sitting at white-only counters and dismantling Jim Crow, I couldn't be on this platform with you as a Black woman, and you couldn't possibly be on that platform with your limited rights to vote as a Black man. So therefore, disruption is necessary. But again, when you talk about, so when we speak of violent behavior and we're talking about Black, Indigenous, and brown communities and what that looks like, we have to be careful of acceptability in white culture, right? We have to look at what's acceptable and what's not in a form of, when I say that, I mean in a form of behavior. So not tearing things up, but maybe being disruptive. And if we look at the people that are quote unquote.
Repeat that last part again. And I know you're driving, but repeat that last part again. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll get her back.
Yeah, of course.
But at the end of the day, she's absolutely correct. First of all, no one is setting out to create a violent atmosphere. But it's funny and often, quite frankly, hypocritical when you have folks who try the route of peaceful protests, such as the kneeling, and you still have folks today who talk about that it's not peaceful. But go ahead. Oh, Shenika's back. Go ahead.
That are burning down buildings. I think that.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear you, Shenika. Go ahead. Start over. Oh man, I didn't do it. You there? You there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let's do another shot.
So let me just I'm almost home. My husband's actually driving, but I just wanted to say I live in Commerce City. And we have some work to do with access to cell towers and reception. I'll just say that even our cable we have a long way to go. But what I was saying is that we have to be mindful when we discuss acceptable behaviors of people of color, especially Black, brown, and Indigenous communities, and what that looks like. We are hurt people, but however, we are triumphing over systemic racism. We are triumphing over systems, I don't want to say they're hurdles, right? That are clearly in place to prevent us from accessing the same as as whites in this country. And so, sometimes that may come out, and I may even be aggressive or threatening to some. And I'm not. I wouldn't hurt a fly. However, that may come out in my pain, in my hurt, in my voice. So I try to use my instrument of my tongue and in communicating with America and saying, hey, this isn't right. Hey, I will show up. Hey, I may lead, and we may stand in that street to get you to stop to hear us. Now, when you come into a sense of rioting, then I think that there are those who riot out of pain, and
Right.
then you have those, and then you have the disruptors and the agitators
Exactly.
that there's nothing you can do about it, and then the media spins it like, oh my god, we have these violent protesters. These are moms. Like, I'm leaving soccer practice, and these are moms. These are single moms. These are dads. These are business owners. These are school teachers that are fed up, and they're standing in the street. They're screaming from the sidewalk. They're writing letters. They're making calls. And you have, I mean, even I have a friend, I'm gonna say middle age. She's mid 50s, late 50s, and she's out, and she's joined an organization called Wall of Moms,
Yep.
that was started here in Denver. And she's like, Shenika, I'm ready to show up. Tell me what I need to do. How can I protect you? And this is the movement. The movement, and as far as even the abolitionist movement, some would consider that violent, because there were
Yeah.
necessary casualties in the abolitionist movement. However, that movement got me my freedom. It got you and your family your freedom. So sometimes, again, I think it's how we internalize behavior and the expectation of behavior that we have to we have to check ourselves on what that looks like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Harriet Tubman had to shoot a few people.
She carried a gun for purposes of shooting white folks who may have tried to interrupt, and also black folks who decided at the end of the day they're going to turn around and go back.
Yep.
So you're exactly correct. Most people don't know that, but that is accurate in that respect. And I'm glad you talked about the Wall of Moms. Obviously, it got a huge push based on Portland. Then there was also a group called Wall of Dads and Wall of Veterans, things of that nature. And I know there's people from Colorado who actually ventured out and made that trip as well. Did you know any folks who also did that as well?
I do know a few people that traveled with us, a couple of medics that came with us to Louisville.
Okay.
I do not know. I'm sorry. I knew someone that's in the Wall of Moms that did travel to Portland. Yes, I do know of that. But even with the Wall of Moms and other organizations, I'm appreciative that at least our chapter checks in and they ask, what can they do? So in this movement, you have several organizations that start off in allyship to the movement, and then they spin into something else, and you're like, okay, this is taking a turn to where now it's on the backs of Black and brown people. And so we have to be mindful as activists, as actionists, as seeking this liberation, that we're not again falling into the same systems. So this movement requires there's a lot of moving parts and pieces here. Like, we're constantly watching our backs, taking on the government in a sense, and taking on structural racism means that a lot of folks gotta be uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and people aren't ready to have that conversation on what that comfortability looks like. They're not ready for it. They want our liberation. They want us to be free. But if that means they got to unwield some power, then it comes time. Well, I want you to be free. And even William Lloyd Garrison, I had this conversation with a friend this morning. In the abolitionist movement, he even said, Frederick Douglass, you can't do this by yourself. You don't have the intellect to do it alone. When that's not
Right.
true. As people, we have the power. Black people, we have the power to free ourselves. And that's where we have to turn and say, is this organization beneficial for me? Are they checking in with me? And so we
Yeah.
have to again check the abolitionist movement. And so again, it's a constant conversation daily on, especially when I move and I wake up, I check my circle. I don't move without community. And I think you heard me say this several times, Kevin,
Hmm.
traveling with me. I don't move unless community blesses it.
Mm. Right.
And that's what I need our allies to do, our accomplice to do. Stop moving unless we blessed it.
Yeah. Make sure you're with kindred spirits, so you don't get aligned with people that aren't representing your values.
Absolutely.
That's how you get all the infighting,
Right.
and all the disruptors that are provocateurs even, and seem like they're one of us,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're making us all look bad.
So
And then
I'm
you
ready to start the course and really start instruction on this course of how to go from ally to accomplice. But before we get there, we have to make sure folks are actually ready to have that conversation. And unfortunately, they'll talk the good game. Oh, no, I want this, I want that. But when you start to hit them with direct questions and they get offended, or they say, all lives matter, or they make some comment that shows that they're truly not ready for those conversations, I think that's a problem. And when you talk about our allies and our accomplices, and when you talk about move with community, that community is a diverse community. And so I say all that to say it's probably time to start having those conversations with those folks just to see where they really are. Because if they're not a part of the community, then we need to move on and move past. And that's just kind of factual. That comes from another place, but that's real as far as I'm concerned.
Kat always says this, and I've been picking it up. It's been echoing in my head. There is a spectrum of racism.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody wants to put on a Klan outfit. There's tons of people that actually don't hate black people, but wouldn't want their daughter to bring a black man home,
Mm-hmm.
or wouldn't want to date someone outside, someone that's of brown or black descent,
Mm-hmm.
or just don't quite care as much when they see a black or brown person get shot by the police. And maybe it's unspoken and it's not realized as of yet. But whenever you try to get it down to the nitty gritty and say, "Hey, take this walk with me," they're like, not like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a well-intentioned white friend who I remember when Colin Kaepernick first started kneeling and started getting notoriety for the kneeling, because he was kneeling for a long time. But when that happened, was just like, no, you can't do that. We can't do anything and think that they're going to be satisfied.
Right.
The only thing they want us to do that they'll be satisfied with is be quiet and smile and take it and continuously turn the other cheek. But even Jesus said he came to bring a sword as well. Just saying, just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
So the
Definitely.
most peaceful of us are sometimes going to have to fight back, and it doesn't mean physical. It doesn't mean shoot bullets. It doesn't mean burn anything down. What it means is, weaponize this political process, weaponize social media, mobilize and get out here in these streets and protest with people and magnify our numbers. Go and sometimes just surround that police station. Let them know, hey, even though we're not doing nothing wrong, you're only coming in or out without it being a problem, because you done pissed off the black community, and they're in a way right now. We're feeling some type of way.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, we've been asking about Defunded Police. I think there's a group out that's trying to change that terminology, because people are afraid of that terminology, because, as you know, that's a talking point for the other side. Defunded Police mean there's no police. They don't get it. They don't get that aspect of it. What we're talking about is let's divert some of those funds to actually taking care of those communities. Let's get more actual black officers in to police black communities, but are trained, not by other officers necessarily, but by community leaders within the community. Mental health folks, pastors, quite frankly, should be in it. Criminal defense attorneys should be a part of it, because us as criminal defense attorneys see the treatment. And so there's just so much to do, and you hit it right on the head. And so I'm quite frankly glad that you are starting this group, and that y'all are creating chapters in that aspect. I've been blessed to become a co-founder with another group. It's called ASURGE. It's called Attorneys and Educators for Social and Racial Justice. And quite frankly, our whole focus is getting attorneys and getting educators on board to start fighting for racial justice, racial issues. So we're going to be doing things such as voter drives. We're going to be doing things such as education on that aspect. So, and quite frankly, years ago when I was in church, the pastor said, we don't have enough churches. We need more churches, because we need to have enough to cater to those folks. We don't have enough of these type of organizations that you're starting as well. We don't have enough. We need more, quite frankly, that are out there to help educate and get folks on board. So I'm proud of what you're doing, and I'm proud of where you're headed, and quite frankly, I'm proud that you're part of the family.
And real quick, talk about the other things you got going on besides these local protests and the 1,000 Miles for Brianna. Because I know you do food drives, you do school resources for kids and whatnot.
Sure.
You do a lot of stuff out there. I know you're doing more than what we're hearing about.
So I hope you all can hear me. Okay. Am I good now?
Yep.
Okay. So I've teamed up with Nativity Lutheran Church out in Commerce City, and we are doing a food and supply drive. Each month we have a theme. Last month was hygiene products, where we literally touched 1,046 bodies and offered some form of food and supplies, whether that was personal hygiene, feminine hygiene. This month, we're shooting for 400 backpacks. We secured 200 thanks to a donation from Jason McBride of the McBride Impact. So I owe him so much because I was scrambling, of course, with protesting and trying to get up the supplies. So we still need donations. If you're able, anyone out there that's able to drop off donations, get them to me, get them to the church ASAP. We have a donation box at Nativity Lutheran Church, right on, like I said, right off of 104th Avenue in Commerce City. And if you can, so we have that going on August 8th. And then I've also decided to get back into and utilize this instrument, this tongue, to get back into Black radio. And so I'm looking forward to eventually working with Dope Black Thoughts and bringing forth a panel of a panel discussion, in a sense, of some of the issues that are facing our community nationally.
Absolutely.
And we'll be glad to have you in the family because you're a powerful voice, and you're doing the work. I mean, a lot of these people, they want to show up and the camera's on, they can take pictures and wear the nice outfit, but you're out here in these streets, taking these 6 a.m. flights.
Absolutely.
And whatnot. You got caravans driving 1,000 miles. And what other states are you touching?
So I'm headed to Atlanta on Monday, and then I'm headed to New York on Tuesday. So working on some things there. And then I just brought on a powerful woman out in Houston. Oh my goodness! So yes, we're moving. We're making moves. Like Marcus said, the movement is necessary. There's not enough groups out there. Like racism is bigger than COVID-19, and we pumped out $2 billion in the last 3 months? Is it at almost $1 trillion? I think in the last since March, but just $1 billion just in aid. I think just in localized aid. This isn't even. I'm not talking about all 50 states. I'm talking about localized aid. I don't know where that number is in Colorado. I haven't seen it. Do you all know where we are with aid?
No, I don't know the aid numbers.
I can't remember, but it's definitely in the billions. But my point is that if we can find the resources in our state, we can find the resources in our country to combat COVID-19. Clearly, we can combat racism. Clearly.
Yep.
So I think that it's doable. We can do this work, and we can definitely take out structural racism in our lifetime. I'm committed to doing it in my lifetime. I hope others would join me into doing it during theirs.
All day. Absolutely.
So anything and everything we have that's in writing about your events coming up and where people can get these resources or where they can donate these resources, please send them to the show. You feel free to shoot it to the comment section if you have it on hand whenever you walk inside, or just shoot it to the page, and we'll make sure it gets up. Once again, Shenika Carter, I appreciate everything you're doing out here for the community.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just 502 stand up for Breonna Taylor. I need 303 to stand up with me. So if 303 is ready to take the pledge, 303 contact me, because 502 is on this train. And I think activist Candace Bailey has said it best. If you're not rowing and assisting on this boat, you will get pushed off. We need people that are in this word, that are ready to roll, that are ready to pull weight. And so that's how we're taking it. 303 is show me, show others, show our community, stand in solidarity with the Black community and help us row this boat.
Absolutely.
And even the commenter, Stephanie Brooke, is saying thank you, Shenika. So yeah, you have a lot of fans. So once again, appreciate you, and we'll be seeing a lot more of you.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Wow. He's doing a lot of work for the community, man. I mean, and the thing is, we need a lot of work. That's what's so unfortunate, is that it's so easy to do nothing. A lot of people, when they say not like that, don't kneel, don't disrespect the flag, don't go out there in those streets, what y'all chanting for? You know, why you got your Black Power fist up in the air? All lives matter. It's so easy to just keep going on with this dominant narrative that we've been taught since day one, since we were 5, 6 years old, before we knew what white supremacy was. We just knew that the dolls were white. You get a soldier man, you get a G.I. Joe, he's white. Every now and again they come out with a black one, maybe, you know. The Band-Aids. I think Band-Aid finally made a bandage that's actually brown skin.
Well, I'll tell you, that's funny as you say that, because that's been actually requested for a number of years, but there is a black-owned company that has been doing Band-Aids of skin tone for a long time, actually. I don't have that information, but wow. I have to find that, so definitely. But you're spot on. You're exactly correct. There's just so much work to be done, and there's so much to do, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of conversations, but there's not a lot of actions by others. But your actions do speak louder, or your lack of actions, and that's a big thing. And I only bring that up because a lot of folks say that they're ready and that they want to see success, but they're not really willing to do much, if anything, at all at this stage. So that's where that's at.
It's kind of unfortunate that a lot of these issues are coming top down as well. So that's a reminder to everybody. We're getting down to the last 90 days before this presidential election. So if you're a person of color, especially if you're a Black person, your vote is magnified by the fact that you're in such a small minority, and you need to make these candidates vie for your support. Mm-hmm. Don't let them assume that they have your support. If you have a Democratic candidate, don't let them assume that they have your vote. Tell them, hey, look, I'm looking at Republicans too. Mm-hmm. I want to know what plan you have for my community. What are you going to provide for people that look like me and that go through the struggles that I have, and that people that look like me have? Because you may be doing well off. You may be thinking, hey, I'm black, but I'm a business owner, dude. What are you talking about? I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. What about the people like you that didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the bootstraps? So let's have those conversations a little bit more before we vote. Do a little bit more investigation into your candidates. And speaking of elections, district attorney races have so many more consequences than a lot of these other races.
It's huge. Most people have no idea. They affect, quite frankly, everything when it comes to your statistics as it relates to, well, let me just give you an example. If the district attorney office decide that they're going to pursue prison sentences for everyone that comes in, for every felony. Think about that. That may seem silly. Sure it is. But let's say they're going to pursue prison sentences for every person that comes in. Let's say out of 2,500 cases, 3,000 cases so far this year, let's say, if they decided to try to send everyone to prison, the cost of that is some $42,000 per year per person. That affects your pocketbook. The number of Black people incarcerated versus white folks versus Latinos versus Native Americans versus Asians, they affect that as well. They affect the type of offers that they give. It affects literally everything. So at the end of the day, that race for the district attorney is hugely important. You should be at every forum and questioning everything. They affect whether students get charged, whether kids get charged, and at what age they get charged, whether they affect that. It's everything in that aspect. And so it's extremely important that you participate in that aspect. On top of that, go to your commissioners. Talk to your commissioners as well. That we just had a vote on whether or not we'd be putting in a bunch of money for a new jail system in the 18th Judicial District.
How'd that work out?
That failed, but have those conversations because that's your money just the same. And so these races are important. These races, besides the president, these down ballot races are just as important because the higher you are, it affects you, but it doesn't affect you as much as the ones that are down ballot, which have the most effect on you. So your city council races, your school board races have effect on you. I mean, we've been taking hits, getting some positive things too, but we've been taking hits as well. I think I just read a comment that because the school board decided to make school, at least for this quarter, to be remote, I saw a comment that says, let's vote them out.
There you go. Vote me out.
It is what it is. So it's there in that aspect. So extremely important.
And another thing is we have to force these other demographics to recognize that the black community is not a monolith. We have different experiences, we have different lived experiences and different opportunities within our community. So a lot of people can pick up some black votes if they were to actually just listen and pay attention. Let them realize that there's some black folks on either side of this argument. And you're not representing our community if you don't come to us and understand what it is we're looking for. There's going to be, there's an argument on both sides of opening another jail in our county. We voted it down, but there was an argument saying, oh, well, it's not safe, it's old, it doesn't have the capacity it needs. My side of the argument was, we need less people in jail, it'll be safer. You can do whatever you need to do to it, but maybe we stop locking up 60% of our people without being, actually convicted. And you'll run into some extra capacity there. You got a little headroom if you stop locking people up that aren't convicted of crimes. That's where I land on it. But what about these staunch conservative black people? Republicans, you can get so many more votes from black people if you just think about us as full-blown human beings. There's tons of black people that agree with all of your policy points.
That's true. It's interesting.
And what it would end up doing, it may not even change the way the political landscape is, Marcus, but we would actually have a real connection to the people that represent us.
So, interestingly enough, as I'm watching, we got 5 angry faces.
I can't look at it on here. I'll cover the screen.
I'm always interested to hear what you're angry about. What is it? What is it that you don't agree with? What is it that you don't like? Because I think it's important, quite frankly, to hear the opposing sides. I have been watching patiently opposing arguments and trying to see if there's value within that. As an attorney, I'm trying to find value, and as a part-time judge, I'm trying to find value on both sides so I can, make a decision. So I'm interested to know, what are the angry faces for? Talk to us about it.
Put something in the comment. Feel free to put something in the comment. If we can't address you now, we'll address you on another episode. One thing we don't do is run away from the comments, run away from input.
No.
We get our heads bashed all the time for the school board and other things. So talk to us. Let us know.
Definitely. So with that, not trying to change the subject, but curiously enough, we are 94 days away from the election.
Yep.
So I know Kevin just said that. Now is the time to really start digging into this stuff. Things seem to be getting crazier and crazier, and let's talk about it. There was a suggestion made by a person that we delay the election. The person who made that suggestion absolutely has zero power to make a determination as to whether the election is delayed or not. But nonetheless,
and that same person looks as though they might lose an election if it were to be held on time, especially if it were to be held right now. Right now, Texas is purple. Texas is tied between the Republican and Democratic candidate. I'm not necessarily excited about the Democratic candidate, but I'm sure excited to get Trump out of office. Excuse me, I said his name. I said his name. Right?
Exactly.
It's one of those situations where a vote of harm reduction is going to be of the utmost importance. And having these conversations with your friends and family members that are not as engaged in this, and let them know, hey, maybe 100,000 less people would be dead right now if we had gotten out and voted in the numbers we were supposed to in 2016. look in the mirror too. Don't just point at the president. Think about what you did and what you didn't do to support the correct president being in office to enact the things that you would like to have seen. Another thing you could look at is like when Barack Obama got elected. First black president, man, you know what? This is something for the history books. I got two black boys that I'm raising up. I want them to see a black president. But in 2010, did you vote in the midterm? How come the Tea Party took over Congress? Did it take over Congress or Senate? Or was it both?
Could have been the House and
it was
Senate.
A landslide.
It was a
landslide.
It was, and actually, there was discussion that they thought that the Republican Party was done, and all of a sudden they made this flip. Spot on. You're exactly correct. Did you vote in the midterms?
So don't let this happen to you again. So let's just say you're supporting Joe Biden. I can't guarantee that. I don't want to make any assumptions. Let's just say you're supporting Joe Biden for president. Don't leave him hanging in 2022. Don't make the same mistakes that you made with Barack Obama. Because if you look, most of the drastic changes happened in the first 2 years. Afterwards, he was handicapped. Every single thing was they were trying to repeal. How many times they tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act? That was like 59. It was like 59, 58 times or something like that overall.
It was a record, and yet they always said that there would be a replacement plan. Of course, there isn't. And of course, as you all know, it's effectively been gutted. The part where if you don't have it, you can be penalized. If you don't have insurance, you can be penalized. That part's been gutted now. It's no longer the law anymore. So it's still gutted, and yet they still have no plan. And that irks me. So let's just talk real briefly. That suggestion has been made by this person, but let me just read the section. Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution of the United States says the Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day in which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. That's the U.S. Constitution.
We're a fan of the Constitution, by the way, just for the record.
Allegedly, so is he, but I think it's when it's convenient for him versus when it's not. But let's talk about the United States Postal Service as well. Remember, this person also voted by mail, but yet for some reason, anyone else who votes by mail, it would be widespread fraud. Well, I don't give props to idiots, but I got to give props to the people who are backing certain groups of people, and that the United States Postal Service is suffering right now.
Yeah.
First of all, I've had family, I have friends who work for the U.S. Postal Service, and their pensions. If there was a demand today to call for the payment of their pensions, it would not be able to be done because the money's not there. For some odd reason, people think that when you privatize it, that's going to make things better. It doesn't. And so when you talk about wide-scale fraud, don't be psyched out by this. You talk about wide-scale fraud of voting, while you've put a person who's over the United States Postal Service, whose whole purpose is to dismantle the United States Postal Service. It's not a conspiracy theory. Do your research yourself.
It's public. It's public information. It's put out there in the open, and I believe there have been right-wing talking heads that have gone on to multiple podcasts and news stations and whatnot, talking about that the post office should be privatized, should be split up. UPS and FedEx could take care of it. How come they both exist and the Postal Service is still outdoing them?
And the thing about it is they use the Postal Service.
That's another thing. I worked at the post office for about 6 to 8 months. I actually left the post office to run for the school board because campaigning was a violation of federal law, and I care about violating the federal law. A lot of these other candidates don't care. A lot of these political parties don't care. They just go ahead and do whatever they were going to do and break any of the laws that they want. But the Postal Service was carrying so much Amazon. We had to bring an extra day into the week of the work week specifically for Amazon. The only people that were coming as tractor-trailer drivers were coming in to drive Amazon. And they would just cram all these post offices, all your local post offices, they'll get a 4 or 5 pallet delivery at their front door before they can even start doing the regular mail, and it's all Amazon. Don't tell me that Amazon is beating anybody, UPS is beating anybody, FedEx is beating anybody. The largest federal institutions that have been knocking it out of the park for at least, I don't even know how long, a couple centuries, they're still doing it.
And so the United States Postal Service is suffering. I think somebody said that, I'm just saying, this is what they said. They said if you allow the U.S. Postal Service to sell an Obama and a Kaepernick stamp, that they would make their money back.
Sure.
I heard that. I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying that's what I heard.
They wouldn't even have mail to send because these millennials don't send mail. But you know what we mean. They'll buy it just to buy it.
And
they could capitalize and monetize
absolutely
in such a way they would be back in the mix.
And quite frankly, if you allowed the Postal Service to get into the banking business to an extent, and they dabbled in it with, you can go and get what's the
It's like a traveler's check?
Yeah, the postal checks, which is on this beautiful multicolored paper. If you give them the opportunity to dive into that.
Money order?
Essentially, I have to look it up what it's called. I don't know why it's slipping my mind at this stage. But if you gave them that ability, they also would have the ability to put themselves deep into the black and out of the red. Yep. Let's talk about Postal Service workers. They do everything. Without question, without comment, dogs, ignorant people with guns and bats, fenced yards, they do it all. Rain, sleet, snow, they do it all. They get it done.
And they don't even get trained to attack your dog or shoot your dog or bring a stick. They tell them, use your bag. Use this cloth bag to stop a violent dog that wants to attack you and has been targeting you every day. I found that to be completely ineffective for me. I wouldn't feel safe with a bag, but that's what they're doing. They're used to it. They're used to people or dogs trying to bite them and people trying to steal mail. And, they have to turn off the truck every time they pull up to a mailbox. There's so much that these people deal with. They're really, that's front line also. That's front line.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there are ideas that are out there that could make the Postal Service completely solvent, quite frankly. But unfortunately, we have folks in the positions of powers that choose not to do that. That's just what it is.
Here's a big issue. It might help too many black and brown people because those communities are the underbanked. If you give them access to bank accounts, microloans, and check cashing services, they might start building generational wealth. And in a couple generations, they're right there at the same level of economic power as you are. That could be an issue. It may be some people trying to protect wealth by protecting an underclass.
Absolutely. So with that, good conversation. Anything else that we need to do?
I mean, I didn't have a whole lot prepared today because we're trying to get this studio right, y'all. Y'all see the improvements. We're making it happen. We're getting there.
He's making it happen.
Well, he's here in spirit.
He made all of this.
But he's making moves behind the scenes, and we're gonna keep on doing this. We got Marcus's son meandering around back behind the camera too. So it's a team effort, y'all.
Definitely. With that dope black thought for the day, you got one?
I don't have a dope black thought for the day.
I do. I got one. What do you expect black folks to do? You kneel as a peaceful solution and you poo-poo it. So they begin to have protests. You poo-poo it. But yet, when you have a bunch of folks who come in with guns fully armed to the teeth, semi-automatic rifles and so forth, and they come to the, let's say, didn't they come to the mayor's office in one location? Or was it the governor's office in Michigan? And no one seems to be outraged. But yet, you have a bunch of Black Lives Matter protesters walking in Louisville, I believe it was. They weren't threatening those people, and everyone's outraged. What do you expect folks to do at this stage? Well, as far as I'm concerned, things is only going to get worse until folks start to realize that there are actual hurt and concerned people out there that's trying to get things done for themselves. They are trying to get to a place of equalization with our white counterparts. So at the end of the day, you are either for the movement in terms of helping people gain true equality, or you're not. I don't want to hear talk about it. I want you to be about it. And that's my dope black thought for today. Done talking.
And I kind of thought of something, because there has been a second pandemic of Karens, right? There's tons I've heard that it's become a four-letter word or another N-word. I'm sorry. No one's been lynching white women. But all these entitled people that feel the need to make it illegal to live while black, you're part of the problem too. When you pick up that phone and you dial 911, you're tying a noose. That's what you're doing. You're attempting to lynch a black person in the year 2020. Stop trying to make it illegal for black people to disagree with you or not do what you want. That's my dope black thought for today.
Dope Black Thoughts for today. With that, we just want to say peace. We love y'all. See y'all
DBT
back
out.
again.